Tinfoil fanatics, and welcome back to another new episode of Tinfoil Tales. I'm your host, Brandon Wright. Tonight we're going to be joined by my guest, Harley. Harley had an interesting encounter, what he believes to be a Sasquatch in Virginia. So we're going to dive into that here in a second. He has some pretty cool findings from that with photos and some sound clips and everything, and I'll be sure to include those sound clips in the interview. But before we dive into that, we got some business side stuff we need to talk about. If you've ever had an experience or an encounter or just a story you'd like to share, you can send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com. We will get you scheduled on a future episode. If you like the podcast, you want to help the podcast out, please share it around. Word of mouth helps get the podcast exposed to new listeners. But the more listeners there are, there's a chance for new episodes coming out just because any new listener could have an experience they'd like to share. So that does help out. If you'd like to leave a review, 5-star review helps the rankings. That, again, helps with finding new potential listeners, potential experiencers that want to share their encounters or their stories. If you really want to help on the financial aspect, there is a donate button, so feel free to do that. I'm not asking you guys to, but if that's something you feel like is beneficial and you would like to do that, I definitely appreciate it. Any type of funding we get for the show goes right back into the show to make the show better. I definitely appreciate all you guys that have helped out in that regard. If you do donate, please let me know, and I will give you a shout out on any upcoming episodes when I see them. There is a Patreon if you'd like to join that. It's only $5 a month, but it gives you access to ad-free content and also early access to the episodes up to 1 to 2 months early. Basically gives you a jump on the content before anyone else does. So if that's something you're interested in, you can please check out the Patreon. I recently wrote a book called Shadows of Cedarville. It's available on Amazon and other fine retailers, loosely based on my personal encounter, and then turned into a fictionalized story from there. If you enjoy reading, I'd recommend checking that out. If you've had the opportunity to pick up a copy already and you've read through it, please leave a review on Amazon. Those reviews also do help, just like they help with podcasting reviews. But we're going to go ahead now and bring Harley on, so looking forward to talking with him. Hope you guys enjoy it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I'd like to take this time to welcome my guest today, Harley. Thanks for coming on here and talking with me.
Yes, sir. No problem at all. I appreciate you.
I definitely appreciate you coming on here and talking with me. Where are you from?
I'm from East Tennessee, about 30 minutes or so from Knoxville.
Nice. I know there's another podcaster from that area that you should probably reach out to at some point too. I can tell you that here after a while.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, but my encounter happened in Virginia.
So. Okay. Yeah. Well, if you'd like to tell us about that encounter, you can go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So this happened in September of 2020, about 3 years ago. So I was working at an auction company at the time, and we went up to a town called Pound, Virginia, and we were auctioning off a old sawmill, and which I was up there for 2 weeks. So the first week I was up there, it was me and a couple of other guys, and we had the auction that weekend, and there was, starting out, like going in and out of that place, the first week I was up there was deer, turkeys, and all that other normal wildlife you'd be seeing. And was talking to the owner, and he was telling us that there was bear up around there that was going through the garbage and all that. And he said there's far worse things in these mountains than bears and coyotes and venomous snakes. And that kind of stuck with me, you know. I was like, there's worse things in these mountains than that. And going through the rest of that week there, me and the boys had this funny feeling we was being watched. And then coming the weekend, the auction was over, and I stayed up there to help people load stuff that they had bought from the auction. And it was a Tuesday whenever I come back in there. I believe it was the 22nd or 21st. It was a Tuesday, and I was walking around, and I was just, because there was nobody there, I didn't have nothing better to do, so I was walking around the wood line right there close to the sawmill where I was at, and I was looking around, and I seen tracks, and I was like, well, that's odd. Somebody's walking around here barefooted. I mean, I can make out toes in the tracks. I was like, that's just odd. Yeah, I put my boot down next to the tracks, and they dwarfed my foot, and I wear a size 12. I mean, they were a good 3 or 4 inches longer than my foot, and I was just kind of weary and on edge. I mean, I didn't believe in Bigfoot, and I was kind of skeptic about it, and so I was just the next day. It was about lunchtime. There wasn't nobody there for a couple of hours, so I went to my service truck and got me a drink and grabbed a sandwich, and I was just sitting there, and I heard a growl, and I looked towards the wood line because I figured it had been the bear that the owner had talked about, and I didn't see nothing. Well, I was looking up on the ridge, and I heard it again. And when I looked back up on the ridge, I seen it had its arm wrapped around a tree, and it was leaning out watching me, and it would lean back whenever I would be looking at it. So I was just like, well, that's a bear maybe. And just the way it was acting, it wasn't a bear. But the coloration was the only reason that made me think it was a bear at first, because I've seen bears, and just the movements, you could tell it was intelligent, because whenever I would look, it would start to hide. And that's when I got my phone out, and I snagged some pictures, and there was only one good picture that I got of it leaning out from around the tree. And right then and there, my phone just died. It snapped out, just wouldn't come back on or nothing. And then it felt like it was about 5 minutes. That thing was just up there watching me, and it turned around back the way it came. It had to come from that way, because it looked like there was a cavern right beside that cliff top that it was on, and it turned around and went back up the way it came from and walked up the ridge. And the smell was like, it smelled like rotten flesh and rotten eggs. It was a real pungent, rotting smell, and it was truly unlike anything that I had ever witnessed in my life. I'm starting
How far away was it from you?
I'd say it was there. It had to have been over 100 yards, because the wood line from where I was at was 50 or 60 yards, and then it was up on a cliff up above the wood line.
That's you could smell it from that far. The thing must have really stunk, just because that's a pretty far distance for it to travel that stench.
The wind was blowing in my direction too.
Yeah.
And it was nasty. It was a nasty smell. But going back, it was that evening after I've seen the creature, because when I seen it, it was about 1:30, 2 o'clock. Starting that evening right around dusky dark is when the vocalization started. There were guttural howls and whoops and just different kinds of noises that I've never heard in my life. I had people tell me it was coyotes and tell me it was elk, and those I've heard elk and coyotes. That we have elk here in Tennessee now since they reintroduced them, and those vocalizations are unlike anything that I've ever heard in my life.
You actually sent me those vocalizations, so what I'm going to do here in this little next few seconds, I'm going to play those, and then we'll jump back into the conversation. They would start right at
dusky dark. There'd be just enough daylight where you could see around, and they would last a minute or two. And then what really caught my attention was after I would stop recording, there would be responses. There would be what they call a wood knock. It was behind me, probably not even 30 or 40 yards. And I've had these vocalizations sent off in the past couple of days. And I had a researcher from Colorado tell me that he said he believed that in those vocalizations there was possibly 2 or 3, if not more.
So different. I think there's 2 or 3 different
individual
creatures. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, because I think everyone, if they're a flesh and blood creature and they're like a offshoot of a human, everyone has their own unique voice, so it makes sense that they'd have their own unique vocal patterns.
Yeah. It sends chills down my spine anytime I listen to those recordings, because I mean, it's not like anything you'll ever hear.
Have you ever had any other experience from that one instance, or is this something just like a one?
Oh, I have not. No, I didn't hunt. I still haven't been back hunting since this encounter happened, because I used to deer hunt, turkey hunt, you name it. I did it, and then after this encounter, I haven't been back in the woods since. But now that this has happened to me, and I'm getting to the point where I want to share my story, I want to get back out and get back in the woods, and try to have some closure.
I think it's good, and I say this as someone that's had my own weird stuff. It does impact you. As much as I've said it doesn't impact you, it really does. You just said you haven't been hunting. I never thought it impacted me to the extent that it did, because I do a podcast because of what I experienced. If it wasn't for my experience, I wouldn't even be doing this podcast, because I was a skeptic. And I never really thought about it up until recently, that these really do have impacts on people. And I know a lot of people out there that listen to this that have never had experiences. And a lot of people, they either don't believe it, they're skeptical too. And I'm 100% fine with that. I encourage everyone to keep skepticism on a lot of things, because not everything that we experience is true, and to the extent of we have our own truths to it. Like, we experience it, we know what we saw, but sometimes I feel like we don't always, what we remember isn't always exactly how things add up. Our mind plays tricks on us. Sometimes there's other explanations. So I think it's good to be a little skeptical. But at the same time, as someone like yourself, you said you haven't been hunting. It really does impact people. I think a lot of people forget that where they may not believe this, people have like emotions that they go through, even if we don't think about it subconsciously. Like, it's just something that we deal with and we don't even realize we're doing it.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I've had nightmares up to recently, about a month ago, about my encounter. I mean, it's something I don't forget, but I know that I have my proof, and I know that it's something.
Now, what do you think these things actually are? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. And my faith is a big part of me. And in the Bible, it talks about the fallen angels and the Nephilim, and they're a race of giants. And I believe that Bigfoot may be a long lost lineage to the Nephilim in the Bible. But I mean, I have that's my own personal belief, and it may be something entirely different, but I'm going to stick with that. My faith is a big part of me, and it's helped me through this. And I truly believe that those things are evil, and they'll do anything to get you out of their territory. And they got me out of there, and I haven't been back there since.
And you said you think they're evil. What? I've heard so many different encounters from other people, not so much just on my show, but things that I've looked into or listened to or watched. There's all sorts of different aspects. Some people claim that they have good relationships with them. Some people think they're evil. Some think they're just animals. Some think they're like interdimensional beings. There's all sorts of different theories on what these things actually are. Why do you believe that they're straight up evil?
Just the feeling that I had when I witnessed mine, I was just froze. It just felt like I couldn't move, and it just felt like it wanted me to sit there and watch it. I mean, they may not all be evil, but the one that I seen, it had no good intent. I just had a feeling it was just, man, I just had a feeling over me that it was going to hurt me if I done anything. I didn't move. I just froze. I never had a feeling like that in my life. I was just shake. I remember sitting there just shaking, watching this thing, looking at me. And then, like, when it disappeared, it was just like a big weight off of my shoulders. Like, the air was different and everything.
I think the fear is a very common rationale for a lot of people. When I had my own weird encounter, and again, I don't want to make this about myself. I don't like doing that, but I didn't feel afraid. And now I know other people say they feel afraid, and I'm wondering if obviously everyone's different, but I'm wondering if someone were to encounter, like if they're out there and they see a grizzly bear, or they're out and they see some sort of a mountain lion, the first instinct that I would have, I would freeze too, because I'd be afraid. And
right, yeah.
So I think when people see something they're just not expecting, I think that's the natural reaction, is to be afraid. They don't move, they be afraid and everything else. I'm no expert. I have no clue. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher or anything like that. I'm a guy with a microphone. So my opinions don't matter. I'm just here for letting everyone else share their experiences. And I just wonder I just really want to know what these things are. Not that I want to see one for myself. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing something, but at the same time, I don't want to be out by myself or out in the woods and this thing comes up on me. Yeah.
It's different when I was there by myself and I had that firsthand encounter, and that thing was literally 100 yards, if not a little bit over, away from me. That thing could have easily gotten me, and I would have never been seen again. I mean, it's just all those bad thoughts going through my head, seeing that thing, me being there by myself. It could have been the end of me if I had made one wrong move.
Yeah, there's a lot of missing people that happen all the time.
And I believe that a lot of those missing 411 cases have to do with Bigfoot and all these other cryptid creatures that are running around.
That's where I kind of lean to as well. And if you really go down the whole tinfoil hat type reality like I do, national parks, preservations, there's all sorts of hot spots. People go missing there all the time. Why are they protected areas in general? Like, I get, like, I'm wondering if there's not more reasons that things like this happen and it's just kind of swept under the rug. But again, that's neither here nor there. That's a different topic for a different time.
Yeah, and and it makes you wonder, like, they're closed at night. Like, some national parks are closed at night and you can't get in there. I mean, that throws a red flag too.
Again, I think if these things are truly a flesh and blood creature, which science says that there was something similar, like a Gigantopithecus back 100,000 years ago in China. I don't know anything about that. They found teeth in a jawbone. But because of that, they've come up with a description and everything. And to me, it seems to look exactly like what a lot of people report as a Sasquatch. So if this thing was known to exist at one point, who's to say they still don't exist?
Exactly. And there's things in this world that we will never have answers to, I mean, it's just an ongoing mystery, and they're intelligent. There's no doubt about that. The one that I seen, it was intelligent, and it was just out of place, and as remote as that area was on the mountains, so it's the Appalachian Mountains and any mountain range in general, it's so free range. Like, they could easily move along through those mountaintops out of human sight. And be thriving, and we would have no idea about it.
Yeah. I feel like it probably wanted you to see it. That's the only reason you really did see it. And that's kind of where I've thought with other people too. I think when we see things, it's because they want us to see them. Because if they really wanted to just attack us or whatever it is that they do, I have a feeling they could just do it. We'd never really know. And by the time it would happen, there's nothing we could do about it.
It's too late, yeah, it's too late. And that's when I've been thinking about that the past couple of days. That thing wanted me to see it. And it's changed my life so much over the past 3 years. And I have a different outlook on life and wildlife and anything else in general now that I've had that firsthand encounter. My mind's open to a lot more things. And I believe that what I seen that day was a Bigfoot, and I'm going to stick by it. I have my proof. I found the tracks. I've got the vocalizations. I've got a picture of the creature, and there's no doubt in my mind that it was a Bigfoot.
I know from personal experience and from what others have said too, when you start opening up about this, it does feel therapeutic. And I completely agree with that. Just a forewarning, a lot of negativity comes with people that are open to, for some reason or not, people always want to try and discredit or argue or call people crazy. That comes with the territory of talking about topics that are, I guess, taboo to the average person.
Yes, and that's just human nature. I mean, everybody's got their own personal opinions and beliefs, and they're skeptic. But I encourage anybody that's out there and are listening to this, just share your story. Don't be afraid to be ridiculed or judged by telling your story, because it's just going to keep building up inside of you. You've got to get it off your chest and share it, because it'll corrupt you. It corrupted me. Sharing this is helping me so much.
No, I agree with that. For 15 years, I never said anything about mine to really anyone. And it's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you don't want to believe it yourself.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But no, I definitely appreciate you coming on here and talking with me about it. Again, if you happen to be back out there and you notice anything else strange or whatever, make sure to let me know. I'd like to keep in touch with you.
I will, yes, sir. And I'm going to try and start my own research group here probably, and just try and get back out there and get my closure. And I mean, I'm new to this, and I want to help as much as I can. I mean, getting out there and talking with people and helping them share their stories, that would help me, and helping share my encounter as well.
When people come forward with their experiences, it helps shed light on a topic that a lot of people don't want to talk about or don't want to hear about. But just that one person's story can connect with someone else, and it opens up a doorway for them to accept what they saw and then come forward with their own encounter. So.
Yeah, yes, sir. And I will mention, going back to my encounter, before I left to come back home, I went by a little drive-in diner called Robo's, and there was a couple of old timers sitting in there. So I figured I'd go talk to them, because they were from there, and I'm sure that they had probably seen, heard, or encountered what I had. So I just sat down with them. I started talking, and I told them what I'd been experiencing. I seen tracks, seen a creature, and had vocalizations, and I let them listen to the vocalizations and showed them the pictures, and they were kind of quiet at first, and they said, "That's a devil monkey." And that stuck out with me. That's a term that you just don't hear, devil monkeys. I've never heard that, and that has stuck with me to this day, that they knew exactly what I was showing them, and that's just a part of their livelihood. They know that they're there, and that helps me know that I wasn't just crazy or seeing things, that there is a creature in Virginia close to the Kentucky border called devil monkeys by the locals.
Yeah, I've never heard that one before, but it's interesting they call it the devil monkey.
Yeah, that stuck with me. That's just something you don't hear.
Yeah. Of all the terms, they call it devil. I mean, that's an interesting one. I've heard lots of different things. They're called lots of different things, but it seems like a lot of places too. And we talked about this on a previous episode with another guest. A lot of places, it used to be like Native Americans or whatever. When the white settlers came through, they changed the names of certain things. They called it like the Devil's Gulch or something. They just try to make it sound more sinister. So I'm wondering if that's not just something that they've done just because, it's a big, scary primate looking thing, so we're going to call it devil ape or devil monkey. Yeah. So people do strange things, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, again, Harley, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your experience with me. It definitely hits home to some of the listeners and myself too. So again, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, Brandon. We'll be in touch because I'm going to get back out in the woods and try and have my closure, and I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to trying to find answers for what I've seen. And I know what I've seen, but I want to have my own. I want to have more evidence to support what I seen 3 years ago, and it's this has helped me a lot.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you.
I could say welcome to the woo-woo side because that's what a lot of people think we are, but
well, they can think what they want, and that's another thing. People sharing their stories, and they sharing it in general just helps people like me come forward, and that's all it takes is, like you said just a minute ago, it takes one story for somebody else to come out and share theirs, and it'll help.
Yep, totally agree. All right, Harley, I think we're going to wrap this one up, but again, definitely appreciate you, and I thank you for coming on here and talking with me today.
I appreciate you, Brandon. You have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Remember, the truth lies in the stories we share, the connections we make. Stay curious, stay open-minded. Thank you all for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep exploring the unknown. Good night, everyone.